Hello and welcome to another episode of Played with Meg and Mike. Except Meg is not here today because it is her birthday,
Oh, that's
and
terrible,
maybe
man. She's not here.
maybe that's, I was going to say that kind of sucks, but maybe it's also for the best. Chris can say whatever he wants. Uh, so Chris was voted out, which honestly is a huge surprise to me, given how the past couple of weeks have gone. So Chris, walk us through, your interpretation of what just happened.
Yeah, so after Kyle got voted out, I think that was kind of like maybe the last straw for Brian, who kept getting duped. Um, and Brian plays the game. He does a lot of playing stupid. I don't know what's going on, and I know he always knows what's going on. I know he knows that I had something to do with like everything. Um, and from trying to work with Kyle at various points in this game, one very recently, I knew that Brian had an advantage. We thought maybe two, but somebody suggested today idle nullifier actually, but steal a vote was up there. We thought he had that, and then we thought we had Jordan on our side, which we did, so his steal a vote wouldn't matter. Idle nullifier was definitely in the back of our mind, as some of us spoke earlier today, but yeah, I didn't really plan on him having that. I thought it was maybe, but yeah, and so he got me with that.
And ultimately that counted, but it sounded like they guessed that that you were going to use an idol on yourself. How do you think? Do you think that was truly just a guess, or do you think that they knew somehow that you were going to be using an idol for yourself?
No, I mean I could be wrong, but I think it was a guess. I just think that at this point in the game, he had those advantages, and they really wanted to get me out because if they didn't, I was just going to keep screwing them one by one. And so, why not use those advantages now? Um, and I think Graham kind of just the way they were the last couple of days, and they knew that our side had an idol, so they thought maybe they're worrying me enough to either play the idol or to have the idol be played on me. Was their goal.
So did they make it seem like you were in danger? So that do you think they did that so that you would use it on yourself?
I think that was probably part of a strategy a little bit, maybe with Brian and Graham, not so much April. So I didn't really talk to her until today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
I guess
yeah.
did you need did they? I'm just doing the math now. I was like, did they even need to use that nullifier? No, the steal a vote would have been enough, right? No, that would have tied it. Yeah. Okay.
No, because if they just stole your vote and you used an idol, all the votes against you wouldn't have counted.
Right.
So it had to all
Gotcha.
happen at the same time.
Yeah.
Unless they had gone against, they told you they were going to vote for you and just stole a vote and voted against John or James or something.
Yeah.
So, I think up to this point in the game, you have played the strongest strategic and social game. And obviously that helps when, you're one of the players who had the most connections out of all the initial 30 players. But do you agree with that assessment? Can you kind of look at your game and be pretty proud of it?
Yeah. I thought that my biggest challenge, looking at this point in the game where I am now, I thought my biggest challenge was going to be making the final two, because I played the game pretty loud, and I think that I would have won if I was in the final two, and I think that other players think that too. So I don't think people were going to take me to the final, and I don't do as well on some of the immunity challenges. So getting myself there would have proved a challenge,
Do you think that they also voted you out because you were kind of also helping hold John and James together? Like you were kind of those three, really the biggest threat?
Probably. You can look at it like, okay, I'm busy a lot. I'm either on the golf course or something. I'm working, whatever it is. I'm outside barbecuing. When these immunity challenges come in, I don't really take the time. I try to start figuring out, like yesterday, how many triangles are in this. I started counting to 18. I was like, 134, and then went back to what I was doing.
Right.
So
if only there were squat competitions or bench presses, right?
Yeah, physical competition like on the island.
Yeah.
I think that that was part of it. Was like, okay, well, we could keep this guy around because maybe in the final three, if he's there, certain people might have a better chance. But I think they knew I was just going to cause trouble for them every week. So they see that as a bigger threat than competition right now.
So you were working with Graham pretty much all game long,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Up until when? When did you guys start to work separately?
Up until the wife, laid down the law, and that's when it kind of went. That was about a week ago now, just over a week ago now, and
the Paul vote
came and yeah, I think it was right before, a couple days before that he kind of told us he was going to kind of switch teams. At least he came and told us, though,
Yeah. And then you doubled down to help get Jordan onto your side, or tried to anyway.
Yeah, I worked really hard. I have been working with Jordan a bit too with Graham. Sorry, this phone is going crazy.
That's okay.
I'll put it down. Focus. Yeah, and so I kind of been working with Graham and Jordan, and so basically what happened was Graham came to us and said to me and John, at least anyway, and said, I'm not going to be able to vote with you guys anymore. It's just what he said. I don't know what's behind it, but he said, pretty much that it was causing him some problems, and him and April were fighting too much, and it wasn't worth it. So he was just going to vote with his wife, which he planned on doing later anyways. It was just going to be sooner than he said, or than he thought. So I said, okay, is what it is. And then he said, if you can get Jordan, though, like, I support that, and I still root for you guys. I want you guys to do well. So see what you can do with Jordan. And I don't know, maybe he thought that I wasn't going to be able to get Jordan. So that happened. I spent a lot of time talking with Jordan on the phone, building a bit of a relationship and kind of strategy going forward. And then the next day when it was time to vote, I think the day before the Paul vote, he said he was going to go back with Graham again. So it was like all over. So it was a constant battle. But in the last few days, yeah, I think that Jordan, it's since the Kyle vote, like Jordan, that's when he decided, I don't want to play this boring game anymore. I don't want to do what people expect me to do. I want to have some fun. And so did I. So we teamed up.
Yeah. You've been playing Survivor Hamilton since basically the beginning. Since we've been doing this at camp, I think you're probably part of one at camp. How do you like the way that the game has evolved? I know the challenges maybe have gotten a little bit too focused, and not intellectual is not the right word, but you know what I mean? You got to sit down and do problem solving. Other than that, what do you like about the game as it's evolved? What do you don't like?
Yeah, it's definitely, this version of the game is definitely way more intense than it used to be, and it requires more of your time, and they're really long games. I don't remember how long they used to be, but I remember playing with MSN Messenger and just sending a vote in, who should we vote? This guy? Okay, there wasn't too much, but I like the strategy part sometimes. Sometimes it can be a lot, especially when you think you're good, and you have those days when we're set, and then in the middle of the day, on the last day, you find out that somebody changed their mind, and you just have to go to work, and you're hitting the phones, and you're trying to convince them to come back, or you're trying to find someone else. So that part is, in terms of the challenges, this is way more complex. It used to be just, what's your favorite color? Who would you team up with if you had? It was just speed with your. Yeah. And even then, though, it was difficult because they were from Monday to Thursday. So yeah, I think the last one. So you could get it in the night while you're at work, and challenges took longer than they take now.
Yeah. Would you go back to the old way and have them be anytime over day or night versus kind of within a time period now, but more difficult?
Yeah, I think I would go back to them because I know that, we talked at the beginning about this a bit at the beginning of the season. And I remember Meg saying, guys, you don't have to have PTSD like we did back then. But for me, it was easier. I knew I had to, it's a hot summer day and I got to be 4 hours. I got to pay attention to my phone in those 4 hours. And I'd rather just not know when it comes. So, yeah. And then that's going to slow a lot of other people too. So, you have a good chance if you're around your phone.
So, one part that you definitely excelled, I think, the most at was the social strategic part of the game. I think your experience with the TV show helps a lot there, but also, again, your social ability. Were there parts of the game, that, Meg's joining, were there parts of the game that to you felt like you were actually playing the TV show?
Yeah, sometimes. Let me go to the other room. There's a little more light. Sometimes, yeah, like there are certain situations. And,
what happened?
Oh, she doesn't even know about it.
Well, we'll come back. Let me come back to that question, Chris. I don't know how long we'll have Meg for. I'll come back to that question.
Okay.
Meg, how surprised are you to see Chris here?
I'm shocked. Okay. Oh my God, here's Stevie. Stevie is also shocked.
I'm really happy.
Oh no,
Whoa,
Stevie.
Roasted. Should we get Ruth and Sasha's thoughts?
Yeah.
We should, absolutely.
Thoughts on Chris getting voted out?
Hey.
Sorry, we didn't mean to turn this into a roast.
The whole team is here.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So
hey,
just if
okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you doing okay, Chris?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. You know, I was I kind of expected something was going to be up. I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know what it was.
So Meg, what happened was Chris was able to get a majority onto his side, so able to get 4 of the 7 votes, and he used an idol to save himself. But Graham used an idol nullifier that he won on the tournament to cancel Chris's idol.
God.
And a player used a vote steal to steal Chris's vote and used it against him.
Chris, you know what though? Like, do you see how hard they had to fight to take you out? That's crazy.
That's what I said. It was like they went to war against them. They had to put all their eggs in one basket and threw everything they had at you.
Whoa, what a game changer. I'm so excited. I mean, I feel terrible for you, Chris.
Me too.
Okay. Yeah, it would have been fun to have me in the final, drunk as a skunk at Mike's place, making a speech.
Yeah. Aw, I'm kind of disappointed. The Pittmans were really supposed to have a much longer arc than this.
Yeah, but Chris, you feel it right from the beginning that there's going to be a lot of attention on you guys, though, too, right? Like you'll be a target as well.
Yeah, for sure. Right from the beginning. Yeah.
Well, you lasted for a really long time, considering you were a target, and you kind of like slipped by. You didn't really get that many votes against you.
1.
He only had 1 until today.
Yeah.
Meg, you know, you've been a part of all these videos, and you've watched all the tribal councils go down. I was telling Chris that I feel like he's played the best social game of anybody this game so far.
Really? Because so many people said in their videos that he made it personal and he went too far.
Really?
True. Strategic game then maybe. 3. I said social strategic when I said it to him, but you're right. It might just be strategic. But do you after playing with Chris last game, how do you judge the game that, from your own vision that you kind of viewed that he played, kind of getting through all the votes up to this point?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think he played a really good game. But I don't know. What was the question? I'm drunk.
That's okay. You played with him last game and you voted him out, 4th or 5th or something overall.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was a threat, so we had to. I probably wouldn't have won if we kept him around.
But it's nice to see him go far this time. That's what I feel anyway.
Yeah. I think you did a really good job.
I think so as well. So Chris, what I was just asking you about was, were there points in the game that kind of you were able to kind of think about the TV show and feel like you were actually maybe not on an island, but playing the same way that a player on an island would?
Oh yeah. Yeah, at some points there were certain like scenarios or situations that I remembered seeing from like the show, and then it just brought back like a strategic example that I could kind of play into some votes. Like definitely like trying to get someone to use their idol on someone so we can vote who we want as one of them.
You were saying that you feel like you were putting your sales skills to work. Can you describe that a little bit and maybe give some examples?
Yeah.
I'm going to dip, but you guys keep going, and great job. Good game, Chris. We're not really ending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy the night, Meg.
Yeah, I'll see you later. Have a good night. Yeah. Let me see if you can. This is a wild episode of Play, and we're all over the place. Yeah. I think part of my game is like selling my vision and selling what I want to happen so that I can control every vote. I like going to tribal council thinking that I know what's going to happen. And I guess you could say I knew what was going to happen on every single vote. Every time I went to tribal, except for tonight, was the only time I was expressing that to everyone. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know. Even though I played an idol, I still didn't know what was going to happen.
But you were pretty sure, when we talked right at the end of the voting period, at that point you were at least like, well, no matter what happens, at least I'm safe, was kind of the way you were thinking?
Yep. Yeah, I did think that. So I didn't think I was going to go. I thought there was something that was going to get played. They were still going to get one of my allies out, though. I didn't think it was going to be Brian. And even just the way everyone was talking in tribal council, I was like, okay, I don't think it's Brian. Something else is happening here, Everyone
seemed too chill?
Yeah. Too like, oh, yeah, good job, whatever. Like, even the text thing, I was like talking to Graham, and I was like, yeah, I played an idol tonight. He's like, yeah, of course you had to, or whatever. And I was like, yeah, okay, something's weird here, So...
Does it feel a little bit, I don't know if cheap is the right word, but are you like an extra annoyed that like you had an idol and you were safe and it got canceled out, like a reward got it canceled out? Or do you feel more like proud that that's what it took to get rid of you?
Okay, you put it that way, a bit of both, but let me ask you one question before I answer that. Did you, from the very beginning of this game, did you always know that you were going to put an idol nullifier in the game?
No.
So did this get born when Elliot asked you?
No. I have to go back. There were some times because of things that happened in the game as my schedule shifted. And so like there were parts where I knew I was going to do a reward, but I didn't necessarily know what reward was going to go into that slot. I don't think from the very beginning, but but before Elliot brought it up, I knew that the tournament was going to also have that reward because I felt like it was such a big potential reward. But at the end of the day, I was thinking it was going to be used incorrectly this whole time. You know what I mean? I was like, how are they going to know who's going to use it for who? Unless somebody's like sharing information back and forth. So that's basically what I thought happened initially, but it sounds like they just guessed. Yeah. Or because they were planning on voting you out, they used it on you because it was like, well, our plan is to get rid of you.
Yeah. Just in case. Yeah.
So do you feel a little bit of both? Like you're kind of proud that that's what it took, but it's annoying too?
Yeah. So on one hand, when Elliot was freaking out when he got back in the game and he's going back and forth, I remember he called me and he said like, do you think there's an idol nullifier? And he's like, I'm going to ask Mike. And so I was wondering if that's where it was.
He did call me.
No. And I said, I don't think Mike will put it in the game because I just feel like that's a cheap reward, and that's what I felt like. Of course, now that I'm voted up by that, absolutely, it's a cheap reward. But, but yeah, like it does. It does feel nice that they had to throw everything they had to get it done. They weren't going to get it done by numbers.
Yeah, it's right. And I did spend some time on message boards, kind of looking up that reward and just seeing what fans of the show thought about it, because I kind of felt the same too. Like it could be cheap to kind of remove an advantage that somebody earned. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, what I was seeing from those message boards was that anytime it's been used in the game, it's really been used incorrectly for the most part. So like it takes a lot to use it correctly because you have to predict who's going to use it ahead of time. And also with 30 players, there's like, I've used all the rewards that Survivor's ever done. You know what I mean? Like there's no other ones to use. And I have to have some twists and things like that, or else it's just going to be, the majority every time, which to me isn't fun. Although, this is a time where, you were able to swing the majority. And so I feel bad, but, Graham, someone else could have won that reward. Like you said, Kyle could have won that reward instead of Graham, right? But he messed up. And there's been times where players have been like so close to winning an immunity idol or winning a reward that they messed up on, and it would have changed the whole game. And so it sucks that Graham came back in and he's won some of these things, for everybody else, but it could have been anyone else's rewards to win.
Yeah, that really could have changed the game if Kyle won that. You know, he wouldn't have been gone, and I might have teamed up with him.
And if Amanda had voted on Exile Island like she was supposed to, Graham wouldn't even have been back in the game.
Yeah, that was the only thing. We've been talking about that for weeks. Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's like, I didn't really want. I want Graham to. I like to talk to him about it and stuff like that. But I was like, well, he's had his time. I'd rather give it to somebody who hasn't been able to get this far, or somebody who's a little bit, more. People are going to get annoyed at me for my family member coming back in the game. But that's kind of just the way it worked, and we've seen. So, what are some of the favorite moves you've made this game?
So we'll start at the beginning. Like Silas, I put a ton of work into the Silas vote. It kind of got created the idea on the first night, really, when we lost with Kyle, who was also heavily involved. Showing me a couple of screenshots and said like, look, we can't trust this guy. And I had talked to Silas before the game, and I wanted to work with this guy. I thought, oh, this is the guy I'm going to go to the end with. Like, I wanted to do that. And so I was hesitant, but after talking to Kyle, I agreed that, like, yeah, after what I've seen, like, what can you do? And I was like, I told myself I wasn't going to get involved week one. So, but I did what I could. I called as many people as I could. I talked to, Kyle and Chelsea. I know that Chelsea was with Kyle, so probably she wanted that too. But we got it done. And then Brian tried to turn the votes on me then, actually. Telling me that I think he had enough votes, but the same people that he thought he had votes from were also texting me, being like, "Yo, we're not voting for you. We just told Brian." Then he just changed it to James. But anyway, that and
you didn't want to lose James either, too, right? So like that was important to not let the votes.
I know. Yeah, you need that number. I didn't know if people were gonna realize how close we'd be until John House decided to make that video. Thanks very much. He's probably so happy tonight too. That's okay. And then
I don't think they know yet.
I don't know.
Only Ian knows because he was at Jordan's house. Oh, maybe.
Got these chat groups here. Anyway, I'll chat to these guys later. But yeah. So recently, I guess for the rest of the game, I just wanted to pretend that I really wasn't involved in the Kyle move as much, but. I decided to do that with Jordan. I was like, Kyle's not going to side with me, and if he's not going to do what I want him to do, then I'm going to send him home. That's the way I felt in the time. I felt bad about it when it was coming up, but I'm one later, but I made it further than him, so that's all that matters. Chelsea was good. I really, really enjoyed that one. I enjoyed the call that I got before the vote. Kyle, don't do Chelsea, don't do it. And that was funny.
So what happened there? So can you describe what happened there? So you didn't plan on getting rid of Chelsea until the end?
Yeah, I didn't plan. I was trying to work with her, and to her credit, and Kyle's credit, I didn't know how tight they were. I didn't. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I know everything. Like, I didn't know these things. I figured that there was something because of they voted Graham out, and Graham was working with me at that point. But. Yeah, we were supposed to. We were talking about voting Brian out that day. Actually, we were all talking about that, and they were very hesitant. I didn't know what we were going to do leading up to the vote. I was talking to Ruth that night, and she seemed down to vote with us. I don't know if she was, and I just told her what we were going to do. I know she said that I lied to her, but I don't know what that was about. I told her the truth, and so I think we found out about 10 minutes before. And ironically, it was Brian who told me about the vote. I called him and said, "Are you voting one of us out tonight?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can't lie to you, man. I'm sorry. It's Peter." And I cut a deal with Brian. I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to use an idol tonight just so you know I have an idol." And he asked me not to. He's like, "Please don't do it. We can work together on the next vote. We can do it then." And I was like, "Sure, we can." What I should have done was take Brian out that night. But we chose to do Chelsea instead. And it was just very last minute and hectic. And it was like, well, I want to take someone close to Kyle. So not Kyle. So we took Chelsea.
And did she let you know ahead of time that things weren't going to go your way? And did that factor in at all?
She did. She sent me a text. And I don't remember what it said now, but I guess the way I took it was like, oh, she's like, making fun of me, like, hey, we got you on this one, even though I don't think that was her intention. But she let me know. That alerted me to call Brian, because like I was like, oh, 15 minutes left till the vote, and she's sending me this. So yeah, that did factor in. I was like, well, whatever she sent me, even though it was nothing, I just felt like I was so heated in the moment. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. So that's what we did.
What about the Dave Cox vote?
The Cox vote. That was what, last week?
Yeah,
that was fun. That took a lot too. That one's hard to remember. I feel like it was.
So basically, I think in that vote, John used an idol on himself, Brian used an idol on himself, and only one vote for Dave, and ended up counting.
Yeah. So I was working with Graham, and I got Graham to tell me where their vote was, that it was on John. And then, Graham was still working with the other side, but he told me, actually 2 people confirmed it to me. So I wanted to make sure with Graham. Paul told me first, and then Graham told me. And so I told John to play his idol that night, because he would have known to play it. And then I cast a single vote that got Cox out. So that was really fun. I had a good time with that one. Yeah.
Do you remember when you were on Navala and you had the option to either send Graham or Amanda to give them like the free pass to choose the tribe?
Yeah.
And they both fought for it, and you decided to let Graham kind of live on another tribe. What was your thought process then? And looking back, do you think, well, maybe I should have got rid of Graham, who would have been a bigger threat? Because you would have still had the option to vote him out.
That did cross my mind recently, but then I'm like, he came back in the game anyway. So, but I chose early on in the game that Graham and Jordan, I was going to work with them, and they were going to be my 2 biggest alliance outside of the group that we call the Bastards, And so I wanted to help him out, and he asked to go. And I said, okay, if I can convince the other guys that this is good for us, then he'll help me out later, which he did. And we were partners for a while, and until things changed last week. And he wins.
And you don't have to get too much into it, but you said that you feel like things changed with Graham once he was basically reunited with April after the merge, and he was just decided to spend his time working with April and who she was working with versus working with you guys.
Yeah. So that's when it really changed, because he was kind of playing both sides. He was always trying to do that, like telling us information, but acting to the other side like he was with them, and he was surprised. Like we talked about a few votes. The Sharon vote, the plan worked perfectly. I was giving some of the guys shit that day, like Paul and Graham, saying like, if you guys don't turn around and do something big right now, you have no chance to win, because Graham, you just came back from exile, and only because your family voted for you, and you had no chance to come back. So you need to blow up the game in order. And I think he does have a chance, but at the time, so they saw I was pissed off. Paul came to me, and he was like, okay, I want to work with you guys, and then I want to do something. And Paul had, was instrumental in that vote, and Graham was going to play both sides by voting on the other side, and then on the revote,
kind of let you have your way.
Plan thing, and he switched, and and then he just was going to say to his side that, I got scared, I didn't want to go to Rock, so I switched. So it was a great play by him. He's made a lot of great plays. You were talking in the last plate about playing the middle. Like Graham did a great job of that.
And it sounds like Jordan as well kind of was caught in between the two sides, even though he maybe did it. Maybe he didn't. It wasn't so intentional for him. He's kind of being forced to play both sides, it sounds like.
Yeah, he got caught recently with, like, these are the people I trust, this is my family, and then you guys have been fun to play. So he was kind of caught in the middle, and he didn't want to have to choose until I think, he had to kind of this week. But it was all about, just challenging those type of players that, hey, like, you don't have the big moves on your resume, so come and make them. Like, we can claim this as your move, and like, so I'm proud of, go ahead.
I was going to ask if that's just a strategy that you employ, or if you believe that fully as well.
I do believe it. because I would never vote for a player that I think to win the game. Now that I'm on the jury, that I think floats and that I perceive, even though they will say no, but I'm doing this and this because of this. They'll get to make their final speech, but I tell them, and it's true. Perception is everything, and the way that I perceive things is the way I'm going to vote. So that was also a strategy, because sometimes if you can light the right fire, under the right person, then they're kind of do something, and it might be what you want,
For sure. So tell me about how you and the Bastards all joined the game.
Yeah, so it was April. I was sitting at my kitchen table scrolling through Facebook, and then I saw you were posting Survivor Hamilton, and I was like, no, another chance to redeem myself for, what happened last game. It was, for those that didn't pay attention, last game was a rough ending. So I signed up, and I'm moving around here, sorry. And then Peter was in a chat group with us. We have like an old Bastards chat group, and we don't really talk much in it. Well, unless it's about sports. But Peter really wanted everyone to sign up. He encouraged all of them. He said, this game is really fun, guys. Want you all to play. So, reluctantly, some of them, like Dave, wasn't sure. But he's like, oh, I don't know what this is, but I signed up for it. And that's how we all got in.
And how nice was it to have those guys in the game to play with, especially John, James, and Peter?
Yeah, it was great. It was a great way to reconnect too. Like some, I guess this picture had been painted that we're like this best group of friends that won't split. And I mean, we didn't, but it was only in our best interest after we were targeted on like the first vote in the merge when it was going to be Peter. We decided to stick together. But it's great to reconnect. And John started on the other tribe, but I still got to work with him over there. I know like Cowan was in their ear saying, get this person because he's going to align with Chris later. And I was doing the same thing. I was like, John, get this person because he has connections. So that was kind of fun.
It sounds like what you're talking about is kind of cross-tribe manipulation a little bit. Like how big of a factor, which is fine, how big of a factor was that early in the game on the Navala tribe?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I think I felt like it was. Like John messaged me and said that he wanted to work with me later and was asking, who do I know and who do they know? And I was using Facebook to like look up who Cowan knew, and I knew some people he knew too. I wanted to work with him later, but I felt like he did that with the Dave M vote. I felt like I heard that he did. So I was like, I want to take a couple people on his side too. So when they were in tribal council, I was trying to be in ears as well. And I think it did have a factor. It did factor in. Yeah.
So you feel like the David Morris vote and the Wayne votes were like you and Cowan were directly involved in those?
I think I would say like, yeah, we had the ears of people, and I don't know that they did that just because of what we said. But when you start talking about points like that, people listen. So it factored in a bit, I think. Yeah.
I love that. Who do you feel of the players left? So April, Brian, Graham, James, John, and Jordan is playing the best game in your perception?
Again, it's just my perception, but I would say probably Graham is playing the best game. He was, I think, what I felt like was my biggest rival. Like now that we switched sides to kind of get to the end, was going to be my biggest obstacle. And probably he felt similar, which is probably why, one of the reasons he voted the way he did tonight. Brian, I think, plays all right. Like he just, he wants to make everybody like him, which is a strategy too. It's not just. So Brian's doing pretty well too, playing a good game. If Graham and Brian were in the final, that would probably be a tough choice.
So there may be a bit of a perception in the Bastards that that you were the one playing really hard and John and James weren't. Can you just give a little bit of kind of what they have contributed over the course of the game and how they have played in some ways a good game?
Yeah. And so, like I said, everyone has their own story and their own strategy. If they were in the final two, they could explain it. And I think that James would be that. He didn't need to be at the forefront of everything. He like he said last night in our chat group, he said he's my I'm LeBron James and he's AD or something on the Lakers. Give me the assist. But
yeah,
he always knew that I'd be right in there. I'd be able to bring the information back, and he rode that all the way, to this far. He was having conversations too, but there's something to be said about that strategy too. I mean, I don't know if I'd vote for it in the final, but like I'll let them tell their own story. And John's been great. John's a threat too. He has always sided with me, but he does so, he questions and we always had discussions. It wasn't me telling John what to do. John would get information from people too and share screenshots with me. So John survived early in Navala on a tough drive where they were losing all the time. So that there's something to be said for that. And over here, he's done pretty well too. I wonder if the thought has ever crossed his mind to vote me, but he's playing a good game, and he's always a threat in the challenges. So he could find himself at the end too.
How hard did you consider going against the two of them, or against when Peter was around? Same question.
So I was always going to vote Peter first. Chelsea laughs at this because we had a conversation the morning Peter was going, or they were going to vote Peter, and then I turned it on Chelsea, and I told her, I was like, I'll vote Peter with you on the next vote. And that actually factored into it because she was like, okay, that's good to know, and then they turned around, we're going to do Peter, but without me, when I wasn't involved in it, I guess I got upset, So I wanted to do one of the bastards to show that we'd work with other people. That was the plan. I think John definitely and James was on board too. Sorry, Peter. And it was tough, because Peter had worked with us, but one of them had to go, and luckily I figured, these guys would side with me and support me on doing Peter. But then I played an idol on Peter and sent Chelsea home. Yeah. But yeah, the other two though, I thought about it from time to time. I'm sure they did too. But as the numbers started dwindling, I was like, I can't give up these guys. These are numbers for me. I can't give up the guys that I trust,
How hard did you work? I know you worked hard, sounds like, to get Jordan onto your side. How hard did you work to get Brian onto your side?
Yeah, I always work hard on Brian, especially after the Silas vote, because, he had tried to play some defense for Silas and go after me. But I think that it's very hard to trust anything Brian says because he's saying the same thing to everybody. And the thing is, like, even this week, like, screenshots are always shared. So I'm like, hey, Brian's telling me he wants to work with my side. He's telling the other side he wants to work with them. Like, and I never thought that for a minute he was going to leave the Hamilton side. He made good reasons for wanting to, and I think he's right. Like, it's going to be pretty tough to get to the end against, Hamiltons, right? They're going to stick together. Yeah. Maybe not. I don't know. April might say, all right, Graham, you're done next week. But if he does, it's pretty impressive. And it's definitely worth, some votes in the jury, I'm sure. I'm sure he already has some if it gets there. Definitely.
So I asked you who you thought played the best game, and you said Graham. Who do you want to win the game of the 6 people left?
I'd like to see John win. I think it's pretty impressive what he's done, and this is his first time ever playing Survivor Hamilton. He didn't know a lot of these people. He had some good key connections, sure, but like early in Navala, like he didn't know any of those people, and he survived, and he was under the radar. And 2 weeks ago, he didn't have any votes against him, I think. So yeah, I'd like to see him win, and just because he's an overall really good guy. So I'd like to see him win. I also think seeing James win would be just hilarious. I would love to see James's final 2 speech. It would be just, I would be filming it. Yeah.
Who do you want to see get voted out next?
April. Sorry, April. She's terrifies me. So she's a little scary. I don't know. So, but I guess some people would think I'd say Brian, but nah, he had a great play and he won that reward, and that's really, I know what that's like when you make that play. Like, I got to have that feeling several times, right? It's fun. I'm sure he's kicking back, having a cold one, enjoying it. It's fun. So no, I don't think I'd like to see Brian go. I'd like to see what he can do now. But yeah, April, because she was just a big roadblock for me. I couldn't do anything with Graham, Yeah, to support the wife, which I get, but that's just my pick.
She broke up the band.
Yeah, she did. So, but she could also win.
Yeah,
so
I agree 100%, and I think that in some of the ways that Chelsea was playing the game where it didn't seem like she was playing very hard, I feel like the same thing can be said a lot about April's game so far, as it's maybe not as out in the open as somebody like Graham, but like you said, someone like Graham or Brian, it's more out in the open. They're also clearly playing both sides, where and April hasn't been doing that, and Chelsea wasn't doing that, and those are just different types of games, and people like either type.
Yeah, actually, Graham actually said to me, if you're going to vote for one of us and you have the numbers, can you please vote me out before you vote her out? And I was like, oh shit, she is just as scary as I pictured. Now she's a nice girl. Just kidding, kind of. But
does that annoy you, like, in terms of, like, do you wish, like, in that situation, Graham would just say, like, it's a game, I want to beat you, April, the same way I want to beat anybody else?
Yes. And I know they're probably going to watch this, so I don't want to hurt any feelings. I don't mean to. I'm just saying, it was frustrating when I had this partner who worked with me all game, and he just felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm totally off, maybe, like he said, he was always going to go with April anyway. It was just sooner than he thought it was going to be. So he was going to play both sides for a little bit longer. That's fine. It just felt, a little bit frustrating when I would hear that as maybe an excuse, and just like, damn, like I want to play this game, not have a family reunion. That's what the barbecue's for. We can all have a beer and then be family.
I will say, I think there's, if it had just been about the relationship, I think that that wouldn't have worked as well as if it had been about the relationship, but also about a really strong plan with the numbers to say, well, we can each get to the end of the game here if we follow this plan. And yes, it includes us, but it's, a numbers play, not just a marriage play.
Yeah. And you know what? I think, like, I considered working with those guys too after the Kyle vote. I was thinking about it, like, honestly considering it. And then it was just a message that rubbed me the wrong way. I guess it was April sent me a message that said, hey, a spot for a Pittman has opened up on my team. And I was like, your team? And I was like, I'm going to go against you guys. Forget it. But I don't know if they would have worked with me anyway. But
right on, man. Well, I think you played a great game. Like I said, nice. the most strategic game, I think, up to this point. Like you said, this was a surprise to you and a surprise to me as well. I was watching it play out until the very end. Anything you want to let the players the players who are going to watch this video know about anyone in the game in terms of what that you think that they should do or who they should watch out for?
It's hard to say at this point what anyone's going to do, but I don't know. If I were you guys, I would probably get Graham out because he's just ticking things off on his resume, and he can claim, like majority of these moves were his. So he's done a great job of coming back from exile and doing enough to still win the game after being voted out once already. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily want to see him go, but that's my advice.
Has this been your favorite Survivor Hamilton that you've played that you can remember? I don't think so.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah. It's been super fun. Like, obviously ups and downs, just like everyone. Like some really stressful days and some like really frustration. But it always feels good to know what's going to happen in every single tribal council, except for this one. But I still had an idea something fishy was up. But yeah, that makes it fun. That makes it real fun when you're sitting there watching things play out over and over, and you know how they're going to go. And then there was a great group of people, man. Honestly, 30 people is a lot, and yeah, it was a really, really good group of engaged people for the most part. There's a lot of inside jokes that'll come out of this game. It was fun. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm really excited to see you at the barbecue and hang out with especially with the bastards there. And there's gonna be a lot of folks, I think. Have you been, just because Meg always asks this question, have you been watching any good TV shows or movies or anything like that over the quarantine? I know you just got a new job.
I watched at the beginning Money Heists on Netflix.
Yeah.
I loved
Subtitles
it.
or dubbed?
Dubbed. I did dubbed. The same as I'm actually doing Dark now. Just finishing Dark. I'm on the second last episode. Also a great show and very interesting. Yeah. And then honestly some old Survivor seasons as well.
And you recommend that anybody goes on Dailymotion and looks up Australian Survivor?
Yeah, if you guys are Survivor fans at all, Australian Survivor is so much better than the American one. They get to swear on there, and there's a lot more violence. The episodes are longer, and they go in depth more into strategy.
A lot more violence, did you say?
Yeah. There's like, you've seen it. They're like they hit each other. There's injuries. They're playing like rugby.
It's all like sports type challenges, like head-to-head battles.
Yeah, we need some of that in Survivor Hamilton.
Yeah, you wish.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, honestly, it's always so much fun to play this game with you, bud. I love getting reconnected with you, and when this quarantine thing is over, we got to hang out a bunch more.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Cool, man. Anything you want to add before we send you over to the jury?
The person who brings me a 2-4 at the finale, my vote's for you, the finalists.
So perception isn't everything. Beer is everything.
With a ribbon on it, though, please. Yeah. Bribe the jury.
Good call. So I hope you heard that, guys. Well, Chris, thanks again, man. This is a lot of fun. I'll enjoy chatting through the rest of the game with you, even if you're not part of it or not in the game.
Yeah,
anyway.
for sure. Thank you very much, man. Thanks for doing the game. It's been fun.
Yeah, no worries, man. I enjoyed it as always. Take care, man.
Yeah. Okay, you too. See ya.